Digital Board Gamer here in our week in review for March 24th to 28th. We had 2 full releases and 6 beta releases to look forward to. So first up on Monday was Panda Spin. Panda Spin is a trick-taking card game. If you've played Tichu or Wizard, any of those kinds of games, you kind of get the idea. It is a newer game. It was on Kickstarter. So it's a little bit hard to get a hold of, I believe, right currently. But there is a new expansion and reprint coming out. So this might be a good way to order it with the expansion if you like the game on BGA. Now in Panda Spin, the general idea is you want to get rid of your hand and then show out. You'll see here, these are the combinations you can play. So single cards, a set, a run, formation, and a bomb. But the interesting thing is, if you end up losing, so here I played a simple 4, but if my opponent beats that, which more likely he will, and I don't end up winning the trick, this 4 will spin to that blue side there, all 7s. And then it'll go back in my hand. And cards only get discarded when you play a blue card with them. So hands take a little bit longer because you get the card back. You are only playing to 15 points. So you see here 2 points away and several away, and I'm at 7. So we still have a little bit to go. But there are ways to gain these points. Some of the cards, when flipped to the blue sides, have abilities. You see that under that queen, you have the panda symbol. Under here, you have the fire. So there's some special symbols as well. Overall, I really like this one. There's a lot of trick-taking games on BGA to fight for. I gave this one an 8. It's even one I'm still currently playing, even after learning and making a video on Monday, because I enjoyed it so much. Panda Spin is a free game to play on BGA. Panda Spin works okay in turn-based. I'm a big turn-based player. 90% of my games are probably turn-based. But much like many of these quick card games where your turn is just play one card and then you're done, they're not as great in turn-based as like some of the thinkier ones, but it does work okay. But definitely I think real time works a lot better. Our other release on Wednesday is Pirates of Maracaibo. This is another Alex Pfister game. I believe he co-designed it with 2 other people. But it is a premium game. It's based on the Maracaibo game. It shares a little bit, but not a ton of things between them. It is more card-based, I would say. The board is really small. This one came out 2 years ago, rated pretty high, 8.0. You see the rating, the weight, 2.82, best with 3. And BGA says it takes about 32 minutes to play real time. There are a lot of different options with this. There's different map layouts and a lot of different little tiny options to play with. So there's a lot to dig into after your first game. All right, so you can see the board here. You'll start on the left side here. You'll be moving from left to right. And then when you reach the end of the board here, you'll actually stop here. And then basically like Maracaibo, whoever's first there will then go to this last space here as well. So there's a little bit of a lure here to get here first to get that upgrade in 6 points, but at the same point, stopping at all the good locations for your strategy. Here's the explore board. You go counterclockwise around like here, and then you score more and more points for crossing these rivers. So that's one of the strategies, but then the other strategies are upgrading your ships. So you have a ship here, you could upgrade it. There's these little walls, so you have to upgrade 2 here to move this section at 8 and then 12 and so on. So that's one of the strategies as well. There's also improvements that you get, which give you some income. There's quest here down below. There's actually a lot to this game. It's not hard to play per se. There's just a lot to it. There's definitely several paths, and you definitely have to try to figure out the best path. There's I didn't talk about burying treasure, and you'll see there's 3 treasure islands here, each of their own type, and you see on your board you can get them here, and that's a way and a strategy of playing. This one plays great turn-based. There's not a ton of turns overall. You only go through this map 3 times, and really you could speed through it, and there'd be 9 or 10 turns in one game. There's probably more than that, but there's not a ton. So I think it works really well turn-based. So like I said, I overall really like this one. I gave it an 8. I'm still learning it. I still that I don't feel like I know it great yet because there's a lot to it, but it's a game I do see myself playing more. Now for the beta games. First we have Mind Management. a deduction game where one player is trying to hide and then one or more players are trying to catch the person hidden. It's currently rated 7.9, came out 4 years ago. 1 to 5 players, though, best with probably 2 or 3. Then just a shade under 3 for the weight at 2.92. It is rated really high overall. This is like top 10 for deduction games for sure. And I remember in 2021, it was on a lot of people's top of the year lists. This is the beginner game. First, if you're trying to find the recruiter, which is one of these two characters, we don't know which one, but it's one of these two people we're trying to find. You're going to place your 4 agents around the board. You do know where they start. You see the one on the board here, so you know where they started at. Then they secretly move. Now, since it's online, it's real easy, but in print, you have a little tiny miniature version of this map. And then basically, they're going to make their first few moves. You see here 1 through 5. These are all the turns. So they need to try to stay hidden until 16. This is the basic version. In the more advanced version, they can also win by like recruiting more people. I haven't yet to play that. I only played the basics a few times to understand both sides. So when you move here, you can see you can move up 2 spaces orthogonally, and then you can get to these temples here. You can see you can move diagonal as well. And the real game, I think there's some like walls that get put up that kind of change the map from game to game. But after you move, then you're going to ask a question, and you basically are going to look and say, hey, you know, are you in this bus or this little rickshaw? And I asked about the bus, and then he said, yes, I did travel on a bus, and that's why you had to put a footprint there. So I know at some point he was here. I don't know when exactly yet, but I can assume it's the second spot, but he could go around and then up, so it's hard to say for sure. There's tons of videos to teach you how to play this game, but that's a general gist, you know, of just basically trying to guess. There is a lot more in the advanced one. In the advanced one, the recruiter has some people that can be on their side as well, so there's a lot more to it in the advanced version. I got a couple games in this week just to learn the very basics so I could talk through it a little bit, but it's definitely something I want to play more and learn more. Next up, we have Line 1 or Streetcar, a tile placement and then actually dice rolling game that you're going to be playing. It's a classic game from 1995 from Mayfair. Plays in about 60 minutes. And it's got a weight of 2.06. I think this really just comes down to the blocking mechanism, trying to figure out what your opponent's going to do and then try to block them out. So in this game, you're going to be given a station and then 3 destinations you need to go to. There are 2 stations on the board, one here and then a one here. And you need to link those up, and then you need to pass by the C, K, and M. And then when you do that, then you'll advance to the second phase. Now it's like standard, like all train placement rules. So you can't block, you know, yourself out, etc. So you can only place on legal spots. That the 2 games I've played, one game I played against somebody who clearly knew what they were doing, and there was a lot of like trying to figure out and block your opponent out once you figured out, oh, they need to make it to station 1 kind of thing. There are these green tiles here, which can go over the other tiles, which will help with that. But the current game I am on, I'm doing terrible. I need to get to C, and currently I don't have a way of getting there because how the trolley works, because it's not a complete, you know, like I'm coming in from here, but there's no way to come back up. So I've been playing around trying to create some loops and stuff, but it just has not happened. Clearly it's my fault. I put myself in this situation, but definitely is a situation where if you don't know what you're doing like myself, you can definitely get stuck. Then after that, the first game I played of this, my opponent got to the part where he's going to be rolling dice. Then you're going to be rolling 3 dice and then basically trying to go through your system with the trolley. Overall, I wasn't a huge fan of this one. I like the network building here, but I don't think I enjoy the dice as much. I'm going to give this one another play or two, see if it gets any better, but currently it's definitely not my favorite. Then we had Sir Ocelot's Cave, an abstract tile game where you're going to be collecting tiles when you place down certain tools. It's a 2-player only game. The game is currently unpublished, and there's no information on BGG yet about it. So in the game, once a gem or node has 3 of the tools touching it, you can pick up the gem and score it. Now, generally, the first turn you're going to do is put down your little creature here. Because it's a wild, then it'll count for anything. My opponent places here, and they have 1, 2, and then they're wild, so they were able to pick up that gem. So you can see, you're just going to slowly try to figure out which is the best way of surrounding by each gem by 3 different tools, or yourself as a wild token, to collect them. Then you can see here the scoring. Some of those backside the geos have some emesis worth quite a bit of points. There's some combination here as well where a certain number of gemstones you collect are worth points and so on. Overall, I wasn't a huge fan of it. I think the game's fine. I just think that it's not the style of game I like. It's a lot more thinky puzzle game. So it works really well for turn-based because you can think for your turn for a long time. I did try to play this once live, and it definitely adds like a chess clock feature where I'm trying to think quickly to pick my pieces quick and trying to not screw up too bad and giving too much to my opponent. Then we had Queen of Scots, a card rummy game where you're trying to collect sets and then run out of cards and scoring the most points. And then if you have cards in your hand, you actually lose points. It's about 33 minutes. This one, again, much like the trick-taking Panda Spin, the problem with this one in turn-based is it's just I draw a card, I play maybe a set, maybe I don't, and then I discard a card. So it's very quick turns, so it feels bad sometimes having to wait 6 hours just for one turn and then that's it. Real time, it plays great. Turn-based, okay. Game from 2020, and not too many votes or ratings on this game. So during your turn, you can either take the top card of the deck, or you can draw the discard pile. You have to take the whole pile. The way you do that is if you have 2, say the Executioner was actually the top card. If you have 2 of them in your hand and the third one is here, you actually play that whole set. So playing a set looks like so. I'm going to play 3 there, and these go down, and you can see the points in the top left. So now I have 60 points showing here, whereas I have 175 points in my hand because the royalty is worth quite a bit. And you're basically just trying to form a match of 3. All the royalty go together, so you just look for the ones with the little crowns, and those become a set. There's also a wild in here as well, where obviously you can play 2 executioners and the wild. And then basically once you get all your sets down and then you're able to discard your last card, or maybe play them all, then you score those points, and like I said before, your opponents will lose the points in their hand. If you like the rummy style type of game, you might like it. This one worked okay for me. I played 3 games, I think, of it. Then we had another European trick-taking game. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this here, but it's a German-based trick-taking game. But it's, an old classic game. I'm sure my European friends, especially my German friends, might have played this when they were younger and might like it more than I did. I looked at it a little bit, and just much like the 6 games that came out last week, there was 3 of them were these old style trick-taking games. I'm just not a fan. So looked at it a little bit, but moved on. I had plenty of games to try to learn and practice. I didn't need to learn this one. And then lastly, we had Mesos, a drafting card set building game, where it has a unique kind of like bidding position spot, determining which cards you're going to take and leave. Mesos came out last year. Currently is rated 7.2, has a weight of 2.04. BGA says about 18 minutes to play, and it's 2 to 5 players. I played several 2-player games. Here it says best with 4, and I think maybe a higher player count does add a lot more to it. It played fine with 2 players, but I think it just might have a lot more thinking because of the places that you can place, cards be missing, and so on. So here in a 2-player game, there's 4 spots, but then like I said, playing with more players, there's more spots that come out. And basically there's cards at the bottom and the top, and you can see that depending on the position you take is where you'll take cards from. And then you're going to be doing set collecting. There are 3 eras, and after the 3rd era, the game is over. There are different building types in each era. An example of a building's up here. You see the cost is in food, and then it gives you some kind of either action or scores points. My opponent would go first, so it activates left to right. So he chose here because that's the best position, obviously, since I took the last one. So he gets 1 below and 1 up top. So he gets to steal 1 card from me before I get to pick my 2. And then I pick my 2. Depending on where you're at on the board, you do either get food or you have to pay food. So it does cost you a little bit to pick the best spot. And you do get a food benefit for picking the worst spot. And then obviously that would change on different player counts. So you can see the cards I drafted and my opponent drafted. But you can see there's these events that'll come up. They'll start at the top, and then at the end of this round, they'll actually go down. And then after that, they'll activate. But this kind of gives you something to go for. So here you can see, the hunt is going to happen. So we'll get food based on the number of hunters plus points. You'll be using these buildings to help guide your strategy. The events also help you with which ones to take. There are like having to feed people, and there's people to help with that. And obviously using a lot of your food for these building tiles. There is an option here where it says expert variant. And basically what that does is just shows you all the buildings. So definitely after the first game, I think this is almost a necessity. It kind of shows you what buildings and stuff are going to come out. Here's an example of that expert variant. And you can see that the buildings for the next eras are already drawn. It's not at random. So you kind of know what to be looking for. So that's why I feel like this is pretty much after your first game, you'll want to do this because you'll be able to say, okay, yes, in the last round I can try to aim for that building and so on. Rather than just be RNG and, oh, the perfect building came out for me. Too bad for you, I win because the perfect building was randomly drawn for me. So that was all the games. My pick of the week is Mesos. I really like the set collection and drafting. I think I really enjoy drafting games. This one's simple enough. There's enough to it where it's not too light, but it's simple enough and easy enough to pick up after you watch the quick 7-minute video. So you can pick it up. There's a great video already linked on BGA for you. This is one that I'll definitely play, and I'm playing in 2 4-player games right now to kind of see how 4-player works. So when it goes to full release, I have a better idea of 2 and 4 players. Well, that's all I got for you this week. I've been the Digital Board Gamer, and if you liked the video, like the video. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing that. And as always, good luck and have fun.